now we are
Welcome
going.
back, everybody, to the Mr. Troy Show.
The Mr. Troy Show. Yeah, so good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining us to the Mr. Troy Show, also known as this month's Fireside Chat. Today we have Troy D. Patterson talking to us about his experience in game jams following our theme of game jams leading up to the Big Bite Game Jam that starts next week. Johnny, if you would be so kind as to drop those exact dates in the chat because I can't remember them at the moment. And in the meantime, Troy, you want to give a little introduction for yourself?
Yes, I'm Troy D. Patterson. You have to put the D in there because there's a bunch of Troy Pattersons on IMDb. And I kept saying as soon as I get credited with something, I wanted to make sure that that D was there so you know it's definitely me. Um, that being said, I am a software engineer. I make products that connect to mobile devices. I also make games in my spare time. I participate in a lot of game jams, and I'm glad to be here today.
Right. So you want to get like a wall of trophies for all your game jam victories, right?
I'm starting to.
So, oh man, it's just like all like just the global game jam three Peter.
Oh, it's a really small wall.
That's great. Um, so actually, speaking of game jams, gonna go on ahead and drop a link to your. Oh no, where's that link I had to your itch.io? Okay, but I've seen from your itch.io page that you've actually done quite a few game jams yourself.
Yes, I actually started doing game jams about 10 years ago, and I participate in roughly three a year. That may
That's
sound like
awesome.
I made 30 games, but I've made well over. It's always been a 3 game minimum per year.
That's really cool. Are there like particular jams that you're like always got to be in this one, always got to be in that one?
Oh, yeah, the Big Bite Game Jam.
Fantastic. Definitely not a plug for the upcoming. Yeah, thank you much. We definitely appreciate the continued support. But yeah, the
I do
upcoming
also want to point out that there's 11 people in the audience, so I'm expecting all 11 of you to be participating. As soon as I said that, someone dropped, so it went down to
oh,
10.
someone's like, oh no, participation. Someone's like, oh, I gotta go make dinner. So with a lot of those games that you're regularly getting into, do you ever set like a particular goal or like expectation of what you want to get out of it? Like, I want to use this technology, I want to build this feature.
When I first started, it was all about me trying to learn how to use Unity. I come from a background of making games in BASIC and then making games in Flash. Then I did things in C. But 10 years ago, I said I'm going to learn Unity, and that's going to be my engine of choice. And as I started going along and actually completing games, I started saying, well, I'm going to make this type of game. And recently, I've just been trying to find exactly who my audience is. I tend to make a bunch of different types of games. I make spaceship games and I don't want to say survival games, but I kind of make adventure games now. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to make things that are a little bit more narrative heavy, not
Yeah.
super wordy, but like where you talk to people and there's like a whole lot of humor in it. Well, I think I'm funny, so there's going to be humor in it. Whether you get the jokes or not is a different story.
Right. Yo, I like that you've been like this. That is like going back to Visual Basic and Flash. I was like, yeah, you just been like, this is
Oh,
what I
no,
love
no,
doing, and you've been
no,
doing it.
no, no. I'm much older than that. I'm talking Microsoft Basic back in the 80s.
Oh, Microsoft Basic. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just so used to hearing people say Basic as a shorthand for Visual Basic. I
Oh
completely
no.
forgot about Microsoft Basic.
I still have my very first game programming book. I basically learned how to read off of it. It was a game called Dr. C. Wacko's Arcade Guide to Basic or something along those lines. I don't know the title because the book is so old, the cover actually wore off. But yeah, I started learning how to do different things with computers using Atari Basic. And funny enough, I started to remake that very first game that I made when I was a kid. I started remaking it early this month.
Yo,
I hope after this game jam I can resume working on it and then show it to everybody.
yo, that's great, man. Like, just about going to have a lifetime of just like, yo, man, this is the thing I like doing, and you just been doing it. That's great. No, I mean, I seriously mean that because like, there's a lot of people that like, like tie this idea of well, I need to have this level of success or I need to have X, Y, Z. Where you're just like, yo, like I'm like making games. I've been doing it for this long. I'm gonna keep going, no matter
um,
like new technology. Cool, gonna learn the technology to make games now.
and that's what it's been about my entire life. It's I've seen something that I wanted to do, and I instead of just jumping and trying to do it, I learned all the little things adding up to what I want to do. Like there was a TV show when I was a kid called Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. It had a toy that you aimed at the screen while you were watching the show, and you pull the trigger, and it keeps
Yeah.
track of how many of the bad guys you shot on the screen. If the bad guys were shooting out of the screen and your toy was aimed at the screen, you would take damage. You take enough damage, and it would eject the pilot out of the toy. I thought that technology was cool. I said I'm going to learn how that actually works, and I eventually did. I got to talk to the guy who made the toy.
Yo, that is wild. Hold up, let me see if I can find that Captain Power, Soldiers of the Future. Okay, found the Wikipedia page for it. Yo, that is a great story. No, I mean I like the idea of like, yo, like this thing was a big part of your childhood and it like inspired to like what you do in your career and like meeting someone who worked on it. Um so with a lot of those game jams you entered, like how do you usually decide like what project your team's gonna work on, or if you usually have a team, or like how often are you just like going solo?
I tend to go solo. I hate it. But I am very, very uncomfortable to work with for a lot of people. And recently, one of my buddies, Neil Sonic, is sitting there in the chat. Like we started making games together, and it's been nothing but fun since.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he's the one of the only people in the world who can keep me grounded when it comes to like me just being insane with my schedule.
All right, well, Neosonic, thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining Will on his game development adventures. So do you have any sort of like hard and fast rules when you're just like going through a game jam? Like this is an absolute must that I must do regardless of the jam. This is an absolute no matter how long it is.
Anybody who knows me knows my catchphrase is "Cowabunga it is." If I'm sitting there and planning out way too much stuff, that means I'm not having fun and I'm actually working. Sometimes you just gotta be wild with it and just try stuff and see what works.
Okay. So you very much love just like, yo, we're going for it, we're doing it. Like, yeah, no, I mean, the idea is that like, like a game jam is the perfect opportunity to do that because it's not like your financial livelihood is tied to the success or failure.
Right.
So if there's
It's
ever a time to go for it,
yeah, like if you're making a game and it feels like work, then you're doing it wrong. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. It's a hobby thing for me.
yeah,
I don't make game jam games and say, this is going to be the next X or this is going to be the next Y or anything along those lines. It's like I'm gonna make something. If it's fun, I hope like a bunch of people play it. If it's not fun, I'm just going to remove it off of my games page. and that's why there's less than 30 games up there. Like I made a whole bunch of stinkers over the last 10 years.
Yeah. You're just like, that's not fun. That never happened.
And the other important thing for me is I try to learn something every time I make a game. Um, it, I heard, I can't remember who the person was. He was saying if you find yourself working on game jam games and you're always successfully making a game, you're doing something wrong because you're not challenging yourself. Try to do something different just so that you can experience something new. And that's what I've been kind of basing my progress off of. What do I plan on learning this time? What do I plan on doing? And like this upcoming jam, I plan on finding a way that I can make a narrative engine that I can pass to someone else with instructions, and them not have to come back to me and say, "Hey, how do I do this?"
Ooh, interesting. Okay. So I know you said you're just gonna shout out your homie real quick that your frequent collaborator, your Sonic, is here. How do you two usually end up like dividing out the work? Like, how do you all divide and conquer?
He's the musician, and I don't want to say the ideas guy because that's an insult. Him and I, we collaborate on what we're going to actually make the game feel like. I give him a big picture thing, and then he brings me back down to earth and say, "Here's what we need to change, et cetera, et cetera." Um, and then I say, "Well, how are you going to make the music?" And then he tells me how he wants the music to sound. I do whatever I want, and then he's like, "Troy, that's not what I told you to do." And then I go back and I change it. That's kind of our dynamic.
Okay, so you're engineer and he's like designer, producer.
And he's finding out at the same time as everybody else. I'm going to rely on him heavily to do all the script writing for this upcoming project.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Oh no, Neil's like, yeah, wait a minute, what you mean? Um, so since obviously we have that game jam theme and we have mentioned the Big Bang Game Jam, you were a participant last year. How was that overall for you?
um, I made a game called Plummies, and I hope all 11 people that are sitting there in the audience actually played it. It's probably one of my best games that I've ever made. Um, I want to say 99% of everything myself. Um, the art assets that go into the UI, I didn't do myself completely. I bought an asset pack and then I went in and I modified it so that it looked like the characters. And I, of course, didn't design the fonts or anything like that. But I did all the music, I did all the programming, I did all the writing, and practically everything else.
Okay, very nice. I just dropped a video of the gameplay into the chat for anyone who wants to take a quick skim. So I'd say like if there was one thing for plumbers that you're like, yo, this is the thing that you're like most proud of, what would it be?
The music,
Okay.
the the music just I don't know how to quite explain it. I'm not a musician. So when I made the music for it, and after the game came out, a bunch of musician friends of mine that I have told me how good the music was, and well, I guess I could say this now. I honestly started crying because of that. It's it's something I consider myself not good at, and I was taking a chance with it, and it worked out fantastically.
That's awesome. That's beautiful, man. Did you just hop in Qubit? Wait. Trying to remember the usual like audio tools for game dev. ProLogic? No. Actually I can just ask you, what tools did you use for the audio?
I used a bunch of different tools. There's one that I can't remember at all. It was something that someone casually mentioned in chat, and it was this web-based. You play notes, and then you can export out like a WAV file. And
Ooh.
I brought that into FL Studio and modified that. I also used 1-bit Dragon to do the title music, and I I love 1-bit Dragon because you can kind of just drag your cursor over while holding the mouse down, and it'll almost always make something that sounds nice, as long as you are like really careful with where you how many notes you put one on top of the other. But you can easily make music with that. And the I, for anyone who hasn't heard the title song, I'm going to say the intro music is my first attempt at a call and response type of thing. And it's a song that in my head they're saying Marco Polo because the main character is looking for him. And you see the animation of the main character, like with the plummies following him, and then this other green character comes onto the screen, and then the hippo turns around and like runs after the green character. And it's all supposed to be like, I don't want to say a music video, but it's all supposed to be in sync with the music to tell the story of what's supposed to happen in the game.
Okay. Nice. Um, anything that should be like going back, you'd be like, I probably want to do that a little differently in Plummies.
I I really wanted to add a lot more toys in the game. When I was building Plummies, I started by making it where you can win the game. And then I started adding other things that you can play with as the game went on. So the first thing you do is you walk up to the console and you hit the button, and it's like, okay, you can go home. And then I started adding, all right, now you need to generate a certain amount of energy in order to go home. And then I found if you just started the game and then you started hitting the button, you can generate energy and go home without ever interacting with a plumbie. So eventually I added a puzzle that you actually need a plumbie in order to solve. And that's where the Max Guffin come in. In order to get the Guffin, you have to have a plumbie push the button to turn off the dangerous floor so you can grab it. So
Max Guffin.
I love play on words. And
Max Guffin.
there were plans to have like little mazes you had to get the plummies to go through in order to open up a door to get something else, and I ran out of time. It was like there's a whole bunch of other toys that need to be added, but
Right.
the game's good enough as is.
Do you have a preferred like length for game jams? Like, do you really like the 1 week, 2 week, 30 day?
2 weeks to a month.
Okay.
A majority of the ones that I participate in are 3-day ones, and having a month to do plummies, that's why I think it's my best game.
Okay.
If not, I'm sorry, one of my best games, if not the best game.
Okay. Because you're used to just sort of having to just go in like 3 days, and then you have time to really like expand on an idea.
Yes. Before I made Plummies, there was a 2 week long jam that I made a game called Welcome to Earth. And if you play it, it has a lot of similarities to Plummies, where like they have the same kind of color palette, where it's a lot of greens and purples and things along those lines. And in that one, I was tasked with making a cozy game, and this is when I was trying to figure out exactly what I could do as a game designer.
Okay.
I'm like, I make all the games that I make are like, yeah, throw this guy in front of the Venus flytrap and watch him get eaten and fly the spaceship around. Someone was like, make a game that's not violent. And so I made Welcome to Earth, and it's just wandering around, going fishing and looking for plants and stuff like that, and going back to your ship and playing video games when it's late at night until the sun comes up and you can actually see again.
Oh man, you're getting ready for your job application on Infinity, Nikki. Okay, so you like did Welcome to Earth, and then you wanted to expand on what you started.
Yes, I wanted to make another cozy game. Um, and I'm back on my shenanigans because back in November I started working on a game that was cozy presenting, where it looks like a cozy game, but it's like it's violent.
Oh, okay.
Well,
So,
I don't want to say violent.
oh,
But it's called A Year of Frost, and like it's the end of the world kind of scenario. These aliens came to the planet, and the whole planet's covered in snow, and you have built an underground bunker that you live in, and you have to rescue people out of the cold and bring them into your home and try to rebuild society. And once a week, a giant comes and picks your base up and moves it to a new location.
hey
Uh,
yo, what do you mean he just moves my house?
yep. So
That's disrespectful.
you have to be in your underground base, or else you get left behind, and that's an automatic game over. But like when you look at the game, it looks really really cute until those creatures start coming out making that chittering sound at night, and their eyes glow white. With Year of Frost, my challenge to myself was to make something that played like a mobile game. So it's a single control. You put your thumb on the screen and you move it around, and that's how you do everything. You stand in front of a tree and you automatically start mining it. You see someone on the ground, you move over to them, you automatically resuscitate them, and they run back to the base. But I said I was going to give myself a full year working on this game before saying that the game is done. But I do
Okay.
have a goal in mind for Year of Frost.
Okay, so is that the year of Frost like the most time you've ever spent on a project recently?
Recently, yes.
Okay.
Ever on a solo game? No. That would be a game called Cute Cube. Um, I started that one 10 years ago, and it's it's a game that's just like Cubert, except I put my own little spin on it. Because I'm a man child, the main character looks like me. Funny enough, even though the character's name is Mr. Troy, it is not voice acted by me. I have a friend who has a voice that's even deeper than mine, and I got him to do the voice. There's a scientist I call the bad scientist who is building robots that are like chasing you and trying to kill you. And it's even though it's like Cubert, it has boss fights. And the second boss fight is an android that's trying to like chase you and get you. I do the voice of that android. So yeah, that's one of my largest. That is my largest game, and the game that cost me the most money because I actually paid for voice actors for it.
Yeah, I love that. Trying to think what else is there. Oh, do you have any ideas or some thoughts as to what your upcoming project's going to be for Big Bite?
Yep.
Okay.
Now there's 12 people in here. I ain't telling y'all what it is.
I mean, I have a game myself I'm working on. I promise you, I will definitely not do anything with what you say.
I assure you, at least one person out there is recording what I say. The name says recording. Oh, never mind.
I was like, that's that's the bot. That's recording. I was like, sir, we discussed this. Oh, all right. Your teammate Neo Sonic says no reveals. All right. So I'm trying to think if there's any other questions I had. Oh yeah. Do you have any advice for people who want to like participate in game jams? Maybe like Big Bite specifically, nudge nudge, wink wink, or just game jams in general?
I have a lot. That's what's going to take up a majority of this time. We're only getting started.
Oh, perfect.
So
All right.
the first thing that the first piece of advice that I want to give people, I always hear don't worry about finishing the game, and I try to tell people make sure the game is finishable. And when I say finishable, I mean from a player's perspective. If I go to play your game and I get to a certain point and it's just like soft locked and there's nothing else I can do, I'm immediately going to be upset. I don't care how polished the graphics and everything are, but if I play a game and it's like capsules moving around and I'm able to experience the full game where I start off at the title screen, get my instructions on how to play, get into the game, see a you win or a you lose screen, and it gets back to the title, that is a perfect game for me. It doesn't matter if it's like blocks and like you think the graphics are butt or something like that. As long as the game is completable, it makes for a fun game. Yes, finish your game loop. That's the one piece of advice that I would really want to start everybody off with.
Yeah.
Another piece of advice: don't kill yourself to finish the game. It's
Disagree.
something that I.
No, I'm sorry. Don't listen to me.
It's something I fell victim to when I first started. I was like, you know what? It's a weekend. I can stay up until my body just crashes out, and then I'll just wake up in 2 hours and get started on it again. You're not at your best when you do that. Take breaks, go get something to eat, come back, start working on it. Give your brain something fresh to like look at for a while. Another piece of advice that I have for people is don't fiddle with that thing. You know what you're doing. If you're working on a game and it's something that's like not quite right, maybe you should take it out. If you're spending too much time on it, there's no one feature that's going to be worth jeopardizing your entire game over. That's something I fell victim to a bunch of times. It's like people are going to care that my AI, that this wolf knows that like how many sheeps are in this corner, and it's only going to go for the sheeps that wear these type of hats, and nobody cared. They were like, "Yo, the game isn't finished," and there's this one game-breaking bug here where the wolf ends up eating all the sheep really fast. So I always say, don't fiddle with that thing for too long.
Okay. Oh, we got a question coming in from Johnny. How much do themes play a part in your game jam projects? Because
Oh,
I know it sounds like some people like really consider the themes when they're working, and some people are just like, I'm gonna make what I want and try to slap the theme on it at the end.
the theme is one of the things that always kicks my butt because I come up with these really, really esoteric like things that I'm like, yeah, this makes sense because the theme is beyond the loop, and what's happening is you're falling forever, and you're trying to get outside of falling forever because. And then I start watching people play my game on streams, and they're like, I don't see how the theme applies to this, and it like rips my heart out every single time. So I don't believe in beating someone over the head with the theme.
Yeah,
Like try to make it obvious. If it's not obvious, it's just kind of the nature of game jams. People they get what they're going to get from the theme.
I get what you mean. It's that scale of like very subtle to very obvious. You don't want to be on the farthest left where it's just literally like you literally have a sign that says the theme on it, but then like you end up skewing so far into like too subtle.
Yep, always too subtle.
Um, despite all the time doing it, that reminds me of oh I forget the the lead developer, the project lead on Dragon Quest, where ever since the very first, he's been working on the games since the very first one, um, and to this day, the first pass he takes at a dungeon is always too difficult, and he feels like I've been like working on Dragon Quest for 30 years. I should be making good at making dungeons by now, and like even with 11, when he handed it to people, they'd be like, "Bro, I can't do this."
So about that, if you play some of my earlier games, the ones that are at the bottom, um, specifically pointing out Gully's Quest, Cosmic Chaos Crunch, they have modes called Mr. Troy. That is the first mode that I always put in the game, and people say the game is too hard. Why don't you make something easier? And this is one of those problems a lot of game devs run into, where they play the game so much, they're good at it, and they're like, this isn't challenging, and they make it challenging for themselves, not realizing that other people didn't have 40 hours a week to like focus on playing the game.
That makes logic. Yeah, I just hit that problem with my like playtest build, a combo breaker or something similar. Not exactly that, but yeah, it is very easy to like when you spend all your time looking at something, and then it's very hard to pull yourself out. And like, all right, like this is what it should be for like the person who has not been staring at this all day every day.
And this brings me to one of the next tips that I have for people: get something playable fast and in front of someone. One of the best things that I did for Plummies was making the game playable in less than a week with bad graphics, but it was there, and then having people play it and tell me what they think, because you'll be surprised the feedback that someone gives you. They'll say, "I don't like the way that this controls," and you don't realize it because you've gotten used to the controls. So getting that feedback tells you you shouldn't have had to have gotten used to the controls. It should be intuitive enough where someone could just jump right in and start playing the game. Oh, and another note: please don't link to Gully's Quest or Cosmic Chaos Crunch. Those games are not great examples of how good I am at making games.
I got you.
Oh, I could spend an hour saying everything I did wrong with Gully's Quest. Oh, that leads me to another funny thing.
Okay.
How I said get the game playable. Don't forget to submit your game. I spent 2 weeks working on Gully's Quest,
Oh
and
no.
I went to the submission forum, thought I hit submit, went out, got beers, and came back home, and I missed the deadline.
Oh no. My course is closed on you. Oh no.
Yep. So all the feedback that I got on why Gully's Quest is not a good game didn't come from Game Jam people. It came from game players. At least if it would have came from Game Jam people, I would have gotten feedback that would have been more constructive. Like, hey, it doesn't make sense that you forced a player to lose the game in order to start over again. You need to do something else different. Instead, like, I got to tell people how excited I was that I finished the game, and then they tried it, and it's like, hey, this don't make any sense with no real feedback.
Yeah. I don't get it. It's just like, well,
So
I'm
yeah,
sorry to hear that.
make sure you not only finish but you submit the game. And a lot of times, this is more important than finishing the game is submitting it, because even if it's a broken game and Troy will get mad at your game not being complete, at least someone else might be able to see where you were going with it and give you some kind of feedback that will make it worthwhile. A previous game jam that I participated in, uh, a lot of the people didn't submit a game because their game wasn't complete at all, and it led to a very low turnout of actual participants. Um, I'd rather have 30 bad games than two really good games.
Right.
Because at least we could come together as a community and talk about what went wrong. If it's a case of, well, I didn't have enough time to finish things, we could sit down and look at your game and we could discuss, like, as a team of like with constructive criticism of, oh, you spent too much time on this one little feature and it didn't make the game any more fun. Do you have a plan on what you're going to do moving forward to not make that same mistake? It sounds harsh, but it was what I needed in order to start actually completing games.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Is that like there's a lot of people who sit there forever and spin their wheels like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And it's like, just do something. Just make those mistakes and then learn and do again. And then next time just do something. And then like with each time you make the attempt, you'll get better.
And a lesson that I learned recently, unless you're making a game for the 7-day roguelike, don't try to make a roguelike. You have to know how to make one ahead of time before you get into it. A big complaint that I hear about roguelikes, even ones that have had years of development time, is it doesn't feel like they gave the game enough TLC. It feels like everything is just slapped together, and that algorithm will kill you every single time. And I say this because I don't think this is a recent game that I made that I did not put up on my page. Yep. My most recent Ludum Dare game. And I'm saying
Okay.
this because it's going to force y'all to have to look for it, and it's not on my itch page. I decided I was going to make a roguelike. And my buddy was like, don't do it, Troy. You're going to spend more time trying to get that algorithm right than making the game fun. And I said, I'll show you. And in fact, I did not show him. He showed me. Man, as soon as the game was done, I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to put this on my itch page. This is hidden. I'm going to let people see it from the Ludum Dare page. And that's it. I'm not going to talk about this game. And now it's a case of whenever I talk about the game, it's a case of here's what you don't do. I'm still mad about that. I don't know if y'all can tell.
No, I mean, like, if you really want to sit down and actually accomplish things, and then like, you don't accomplish a thing, it's fair to be like, you hold yourself to a standard and you didn't hit it.
I'm not sure if you're giving me encouraging words, so I give you a link or not, but you ain't getting a link.
No, I'm trying to talk to you and then look for it at the same time. But I was like, all right, I gotta focus on this talk discussion. I was like, I'll find it later. Once we're done, that's gonna be like, all right, it's Googling time.
That's for people who are listening to the audio later as well.
Yeah, for people listening to the audio later, for a small finder's fee of $5.99, I will send you this link once I find it.
So here's another thing. If you think you're bad at game jams, maybe you're doing ones that are too short. If you do one that takes 2 weeks and then you plan on doing something the scope of what you would do in 3 days, you might get the 3-day one done in 2 weeks. And that's why Ludum Dare has that extra where you don't actually submit it, but you get 2 weeks to make a game with the theme and upload it to their site. That's what I did for the last one. I was like, I didn't get it done enough in 3 days. I'm just going to give it 2 weeks. And man, that's not the site.
What, Ludum Dare?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
not
don't
there.
know what happened.
Oh, that's weird.
It's something really weird where it's at ldjam.com.
Ah, interesting.
The guy owns, and here's the other thing. You're going to hear me call it Ludum Dare or Ludum Dare. Both of those are correct, and both of those are wrong at the same exact time. I have no
Okay.
idea how to say it. The guy who created it uses both of those, so I just jump around and say whatever feels comfortable at the time.
Oh. So he's a
But
nice
he had.
person because I would just like make up a new pronunciation and then whatever people use in front of me is incorrect.
So he owns the the original .com, but some kind of shenanigans happened, and he ended up creating a brand new website. And yeah, it's just the whole thing is weird. But I always go to ldjam.com.
Okay. Looks
Hey,
like the
yeah, let's
most
not leave
recent
that as the
one.
last link.
I'll say,
Let's
oh, the
post
most
the link.
recent one was, yeah, okay, like last month.
Hey, stop looking for that link. You're interviewing me right now.
I'm not.
I know you're not interviewing me because you're looking for that link.
Listen, man, I'm focused. I am focused on the current task. Trying to think. I think. Oh, yeah, if there's any advice you want to give before I check and see if anyone else had questions, because that's kind of all the questions I had for you.
That's all that's popping to the top of my head. And
Okay.
what do I think went well with Plummies is a question. I honestly enough believe that I successfully made a cozy game. I made a game that people who don't play video games can play and understand and have fun with. Um, I showed Plummies at a event in Los Angeles, and I didn't give anybody any type of setup. Like all I said was, I made this game over the course of a month. Tell me what you think about it. And after they finished playing, I went through the whole spiel of, yeah, I did it for this game jam, and here's why am I being blasé about it? I'll just say some of the stuff that I actually said. Um, the theme of the game jam had a sub theme of make the game like Pikmin, and I personally took it a step further than that, where there was a demo of the GameCube called Mario 128, and they showed 128 Marios moving around on the screen at the same time. That was kind of a big deal because games really didn't have that many characters on the screen doing stuff at the same time.
Right.
And that kind of sat with me. And I said, I'm going to make a game where I have 128 characters moving on the screen at the same time. And I actually have 129 if you have all of the plummies and the main character moving on the screen.
Okay.
So the other reason that the Mario 128 demo was such a big deal is someone asked Miyamoto later on, like, whatever happened to Mario 128? Are we going to get a game from that? And his response was, that's what Pikmin came from.
Very
So
nice.
seeing that the theme had to, the game had to have some type of Pikmin element, that's what I went with. Besides just having them follow you, I wanted to have 128 of the plummies.
Very nice. Just scrolling up, make sure no questions got missed.
Okay, just making sure you're looking at the chat. Now that
I'm looking at the chat. I swear. I will. I will definitely wait until after this event to hit back to Google searching.
so
Um.
another question that I get asked a lot is, am I going to continue with plummies and do anything else with it? The answer was originally no. I wanted plummies to be a one-off thing, and by it being just an isolated game, I believed that's what caused me to make the best game that I could. I think if I would have developed a game with the mindset of here's all the stuff that I'm going to add later, it would have limited me on actually adding things into the main game itself. I don't know if that makes any sense,
No, it
but
does.
like, yeah, I was like, I want to focus and make this be a complete experience. Um, but people keep asking me, they're like, the characters are so cute. What are you planning on doing with them? Are you going to make little plushies and you're going to make little figurines for people? And I'm like, nah, that's not really my style to do with my games. And then I realized that's a lie because my first few years of making games, I used to get some type of memorabilia or some type of thing that I could physically hold that would remind me of my games that I made. Um,
Question from Arya. How do you personally choose which game jams you want to participate in?
if I know the person running the game jam and the Ludum Dare,
Oh, okay,
it's
interesting.
like that. The Ludum Dare was the very first game jam, or not the very first. It was the first game jam that I participated in by myself, and it came at a time when I was feeling really low about myself. I had lost my job and I didn't feel like I was a good game developer at the time. So I participated and the game was awful. It was barely finished. I had the gameplay loop in, but it was not what I wanted it to be.
Right.
And someone responded with, "This game is really cool. You should continue working on it." And that motivated me to keep on participating. And I said, if I keep a schedule and I work on being a game developer, it doesn't matter which job I get. I'll still be able to make games in my spare time, and I'll become a better game developer. And then once I became part of various game programming communities, whenever someone's like, "Hey, I'm starting a game jam. I'd like to get participants. Are you game to participate?" I'm always like, yes, because the more people you have participating, the better. I do avoid 3-day ones, with the exception of Ludum Dare.
Okay. Because you just like the time to really spend on something and not that just like, I got 3 days to crank something out.
Yes. It's also because Ludum Dare has a large amount of participants, so I'll get a the net is cast a lot wider to get actual feedback on making something really quick, so I can
Right.
test out a concept of, would this be a fun play mechanic. Fun fact,
Uh,
trying to make a fun play mechanic in a roguelike in the 3-day weekend is not a good idea.
I mean, you only tried once, maybe a couple more.
um, I tend to not work in a team. Um, it's if I do, I try my best to make sure that I have a very very clear job that I have to do and the other people have to do. Just like I was saying, my buddy Neil Sonic is going to do a whole lot of writing, and he's just finding out today. But that means I don't have to actually do it. I do have trouble working with other programmers, and depending
Ah.
on who the alpha is in a relationship when it comes to being a actual game designer, I do have a problem with that sometimes too.
I was like,
Because
yeah, that sounds like a career software engineer opinion. You look at some people's code, and you're like, nah, B, I'm all set, B. that that sounds like previous jobs where you've just looked at something someone committed, and you're just like, all right, I guess this is my problem now.
Oh, see, that's how I am. Like, I see someone else's code is like, all right, this is what we're working with.
Yeah.
But on more than one project, I've had another programmer go, Troy, you did this all wrong, and delete all my code and just start over again.
Oh.
So, um, when it comes to programming, I try to tell junior programmers all the time,
Don't
the
don't
most
touch anything.
important thing is that it works.
Yeah. I was like,
So,
yep, there's those opinionated programmer fights where they just see a function and just delete it and be like, bro, what are you doing?
someone told me this is not going to work on a Mac, and I was like, but we're making a WebGL build, so does it matter?
I was just like, yeah, that sounds like some opinionated programmer would be like, oh, this won't compile on Linux. It's a mobile game, dude. What are you talking? Shut up. I was like, up, John is old program. I was like, yeah, John, I know you've also been through the experience that a couple times, Johnny.
So, like, if I work on a team and there's another programmer, like, right from the very, very start, it's like Troy is not going to do the coding. You do it. And then I'll come in and I'll add additional features. I'll figure out how you're trying to do things. Um, that, funny enough, was one of my earlier jobs in my career. Like, whenever somebody left the company, they would just be like, Troy, go in there and make this project work.
ah,
So I got used to that.
ah.
What I'm not used to is, hey Troy, this don't work the way that I want it to, and then just delete everything that I do.
I was like, so your early job title was legacy coder.
Oh, what made it worse was the fact that it's people who left the company, not like someone that I can go to and say, hey, what was your thought behind doing this?
Yeah, of course
It's
not.
like just lines and lines of uncommented code,
Yeah,
and
I was like, I know what he's about to say here. They ran
probably
around like, yo, man, my architecture is perfect. I don't need to comment anything. Just
uh, someone
no
once said
rhyme
that
or
to me.
reason. Just slap it in there, leave the company, and you're like, cool, awesome. I love it here.
Someone once told me, if your code is good enough, you don't need comments.
And then you fought
And
that person.
ooh, uh, they were more so upset because I was commenting everything, and then when I would commit, like there's a whole bunch of data, like a lot of bytes added to the source code just because there's a ton of comments.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I name a variable mouse X, and you don't understand that that's the character mouse and not the actual physical mouse, like you won't know where to look. But if I type out a comment and I have blah blah blah, you can't mistake that as easily.
Yeah. Nah,
And people who have unreadable code say that.
that is, yeah, that is the hallmark of somewhat unreadable code. I don't need to comment it. Yes, you do. You specifically do. It's always those people who want to like, they want to have variables with single letter variables, single letters, and just like, yo, dog, stop it. All right. So I'm trying to look at me. Take. Yep. Keith's right. Everyone thinks their thought process is intuitive.
See, the way that I started this entire conversation is my catchphrase is "Cowabunga it is." If you know that I got some wild stuff going on in my noggin and I'm putting that in the code, you know you can't just trust my code to just work. So I have to actually add comments, or else nobody go to my GitHub and look at any of my code because there's not comments in that.
Oh man, that's another thing to search after this session's over. Don't worry, I'll make it up to you and then I'll screenshot my uncommented code.
Oh,
So we can
yes.
judge each other. There we go.
That leads me to one more thing. I'm glad I brought that up before we left. Test your tools before the game jam starts, not when it starts. Don't download that new version of Unity as soon as you find out what the theme is. Don't double check and make sure you got Photoshop or Sprite installed. Like as soon as you get the theme, you should know like a week ahead of time if your tools are working or not. That way, you give yourself enough time to troubleshoot that stuff. I'm not saying that happened to me before in the past, but somebody I know that did happen to them. They just happen to look a lot like me and occupy the same physical space.
That's crazy. What a coincidence. That's wild. All right. So, thank you very much. This has been great. As someone who doesn't really do many game jams, or hardly any, it's really cool to hear your perspective of someone who's been through a lot of them and like your process for going through them, how you consistently actually get things done during game jams. I personally think this is really dope.
Oh, thanks.
So to the audience, as always, I thank all of you for joining. It is always a pleasure to just have members of Black Game Devs just come up and just talk about the cool stuff they're doing. I'm always happy to see you all stop by. And yeah, that's it. Until next time, everyone.